And our next speaker, I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Peter Decker from Symphony Teleca. So wearables is a topic that gets bandied around within M2M and the Internet of Things a lot, and Peter's going to be talking about Bee-2-X communication, how wearables communication will turn the Internet upside down. So, Peter, over to you.
Thank you. Hello, can you? Hello, everybody. My name is Peter Decker. So I'm from Symphony Teleca, a software services provider with 7,500 people worldwide. So all of you have been influenced with the internet in the past, and you have integrated into your life. And it has changed dramatically over the last 20, 30 years. And it will change again now with the Internet of Things. So the term is used here differently in M2M, sometimes IoT, Internet of Things, but I think I tried to use more the Internet of Things idea in this presentation. So in most of the discussions we had in the last 3 years now here in this M2M summit, the focus was very much on enterprise use cases. So M2M was there to bring a business case, to implement a business case, to have the processes inside of an enterprise reaching out to more devices into the own equipment. So all the equipment is owned by the enterprise, and the use cases and the benefits are coming also in the enterprise area. So we have discussed and we understand quite well the lower two areas, so connecting and managing the data and the access points, sensors and actors. And now it's starting also to get into these upper levels of maturity where we generate new revenue streams with the M2M, and we have services mesh up and new products and predictive maintenance and all these things. So that's the discussion we had already in the last 3 M2M summits. But what I personally really believe is that if you see this number, which is, I think, published 10 years ago, this 50 billion in 2020 from Ericsson, it's per world population, it's a factor of 7, 8 per world head. So it's something really significant, and you should, as a user, really, you will see it. So it will be, I believe that the consumer IoT market will continue to have a significant share. So if you see in the past, everybody has a mobile phone, so we have 100% penetration there. If you count the M2M devices we have so far for enterprise solutions, it's still a portion of this. So, and now we are starting with tablets, and we will soon see the connected cars and all the wearables coming up. So I strongly believe that there is a big portion there. I don't have figures, but just the impression. And what does this mean? If you see the same picture here, so the maturity levels and the dimensions here, we have a new dimension, which is the value of the experience which comes with these wearables or consumer-owned M2M devices. And that's something which is not so easy to understand like a business case, of course. And even the user business value is something not so easy to calculate. For example, if you see the bike which was presented in the morning, connected bike, will cost a lot of money, and it's not really a business case behind, but it's an emotional business case, so to say. So that's what I said here with the value of the experience. And also there are also these levels here where you have kind of understood is how to connect to these devices, and also all the device manufacturer, they will understand, and they will, I think it will be easy to understand the use case, the dedicated use case coming with the service of this device. So if you buy a wearable which is dedicated to sports or health, you will get a vertical service attached to this, which I think it's already quite well understood. But I think what is expected from the user is that he can create his own business cases and that he, on top, can create his own experience extensions, which means that he can combine different devices and make a system out of it. And that's really tricky. If you just take today's devices and try to do this, it's extremely tricky, and there's a lot needed to make this happen. I try to inspire you to think about this with a system where you have many, many devices. And the idea is that you imagine you are a beekeeper. I don't know who of you is, or if there's any beekeeper in the room. Probably not. So if you see these bee hives, they change their size over a year, and that's quite natural because the number of bees changes over the year from 5,000 in wintertime to 40,000 in summertime. So they change these racks and modify it over the year, and each time they open it, they disturb the beehives, and it's always not a good idea to interfere there. So number of bees can be estimated from when you open the beehive. You can count, or you can see the size from the how many percentage of bees are in, so you can estimate, and then you have to make your decisions based on this. So there are these kind of hidden parameters you don't know. So for example, the number of bees, number of worker brood cells, or the amount of honey inside. And depending on these figures, you have to interact and really change something. So if you see this is a perfect scenario for an M2M private setup. So if you would be able to address people who have this kind of long tail use cases with a system that can be easily combined and can be really implemented, that you can utilize this even for such things which have probably not been predefined. I think then we have the Internet of Things as we are talking about today. So there are sensors which you can even attach to bees. So I just mentioned here on this slide 2 projects which are dealing with some experiments. It's on an experimental basis, and it's of course still expensive to connect $50, what we heard here, LTE devices to each single bee. That's no business case. Even if it's an emotional business case, it will probably not be a black one. But there are researchers which are currently really doing this and really attaching sensors to bees and collecting the data when they come back, and sometimes even when they are still flying. So that's the inspiration I wanted to give with this presentation. And if you see the things and the wearables which are currently there, this slide will change probably every year when we would have, if this would be presented every year in this conference. You see now, for example, one example is this, the GoPro, which is used quite widely, which is not yet connected, but which is a device which is started from one corner, which nobody would think it makes sense, like a camera without big functionality, just record one type of focus image, and it explodes currently into directions. Like, for example, you can get this crowdfunded projects with armrests, which have cameras included, which you can throw away like a small quadrocopter, or you can have a quadrocopter with a camera in, remote controlled. You have these balls you can throw in the air to get pictures, 360-degree pictures. And there is a similar variety on the armrest devices, which is currently created on thousands of areas. So what I see is there are these different dimensions in life experience, and that's the critical thing to identify now. So how can people mentally or physically or emotionally or socially use this zoo of devices? And then the enablers which I currently see, which are missing, are, for example, we will see more uplink than downlink. It's very complicated the user experience of using multiple devices is extremely complicated. Even if you use services like if this, then that, maybe some of you know this, where you can click together different triggers with different actions in the network. It's so easy that you create a system which is going to a dead end at some point, because you have not foreseen the state in the system. So, and then, of course, the topic which is now got also a name, is edge computing, which is from Cisco called fog computing, that there is more computing in the sensor area so that you don't send everything to the network, calculate there, and then put the results back. And also, what I also said, this mesh up, it's also something which is quite tricky at the moment, meshing up different devices which are not from one manufacturer. Of course, if it's from one manufacturer, it's quite easy. Then you have normally an ecosystem in this manufacturer. But if you want to mesh up different things, it's quite complicated. And what I also think is, what we have not yet now is analytics support on the device part. So we currently have only big data somewhere in the cloud. And it's, for example, if you want to collect all the data from a single bee, it's, of course, something you have to consider. Transmitting the data to somewhere costs energy. So you really have to think about this and have to manage if it makes sense even to process the data in the field. So other examples in this is, of course, connected car. I don't go to detail. There is another presentation on this in another session. So that's the idea I want to bring here, and I hope this is inspiring for you to get ideas how to continue this discussion on Internet of Things for consumers. I'm, as I said, coming from Symphony Teleca. We have 7,500 people in different dimensions, from analytics to device engineering, and these are some examples of projects we have been working in this field of device data and UX design. So that was a short, hopefully inspiring to you to think about consumer IoT. Because I think it's not yet that much we have in this conference on this topic.
Excellent. Well, thank you. We do have some time for questions. You were very short and to the point, so we have some time for questions if there are questions out there in the audience. If not, I have one while you're thinking about it. You talked about some enablers for the Internet of Things. Which of those do you think are the most important? Where do you think we're maybe a bit behind? What's lacking in terms of enabling that Internet of Things?
I think there's definitely no blocking issue here. I think the blocking issue is cost reduction. So what said, if the costs are not in an area where this can be afforded, that's nothing, it will not be visible. But it's, of course, what I currently see is really this kind of meshing up different things. So if you start, for example, meshing your phone with your tablet and trying to start what Google is currently doing on the other side, on your own. So, for example, Google Now, where you can identify, now I'm here, but I will go there for some probability. I will go there, and it will take so and so long. If you want to use this for your own, with your own devices, you know it. For example, in home automation, you want to switch on something if you come to your house. These things are currently quite tricky still.
So it's that multi-application combination of different services. This is sort of the evolution from M2M to the Internet of Things, though, really. M2M is about one application, one device type, and the Internet of Things is about multiple applications, multiple device types. And there's also an issue, of course, with maybe data ownership, right? If you're trying to mash up data from lots of different sources, then how do you control who owns what and where? Any thoughts on that question, or are you just sort of thinking around people combining their own forms of data?
Yeah, I think in the dimension of people combining their own data, people combining their own use cases, because I think each dedicated device will come with their own suite of services for this special device anyhow.
Okay.
And there needs to be a solution for this. But to get back your data and to get back to your information.
Okay, makes sense. Any questions? There is a gentleman with his hand up there. I do apologize. The lights are a bit bright up here, so sometimes I'm a bit dazzled. Literally and metaphorically.
Today in the morning we had a very interesting discussion here on the panel about the standardization and regulatory impediment on the machine-to-machine development. I mean, in this highly distributed environment, do you expect at least similar dragging feet on development of applications coming from regulatory questions and standardization?
I expect that there will be, but I'm not actively working in these areas. So I'm not working in standardization for this or regulatory bodies.
Okay. Any other questions? It seems not. It seems you're off the hook. Thank you very much again.